Brad, I know obviously working with defenseman, Jamie Drysdale, I know is a guy that everyone's saying looks healthy, looks more dynamic. Just what have been your impressions?
Yeah, exactly that. He's having a little more fun on the ice. I think he's moving better and knows he moves better, and a lot of his offensive options then open up, and he feels probably more like a complete player at this point. So it's fun to see him, have that much energy and bring it out on the ice. It's great. I mean, we talked about when we got him last year. We can't wait to see him when he's healthy, and he's certainly a lot healthier now, and it shows out there.
Aside from the health, what have you kind of identified as the biggest areas that you need to work on with him if you're going to help him achieve his potential?
I think a big one is he wants to try and do everything as fast as he can, and that's great. There's a lot of part of the game where the faster the better. There are times when you're in the exact perfect position and you shouldn't move at all. And so learning to slow down, basically, learning to recognize when that full speed gear isn't necessary and only takes you out of good ice. And we actually talked about that yesterday, and he's aware of it. I said, you look like a guy that wants to do everything as fast as you can, and he starts laughing. And so, I've watched some clips on Duncan Keith. It was near the end of his career, a guy with, incredibly good feet, not a huge hockey player, but would win his large share of puck battles. His gap was exemplary, just an incredibly hard guy to play against both ways. Jamie's a more offensive guy for me, but I think there's some lessons there. And I said to Jamie, when I watch it, some of his best plays, he was just standing still because he recognized he was in the right spot, and he was just reading all the other things that were going on. And that comes with experience and building that database of going through those situations on the ice, and then you see what works and what doesn't work. So yeah, he's a great young man to work with. So I mean, it's going to be it'll be fun.
How much does it help him that you got him here from day one now, and he's not trying to learn a bunch of new stuff on the fly?
I think the comfort level. I think it's always tough when you get traded. And I think he had a tough time with it because he came here and he knew he wasn't 100%, and then everything else that comes with it. I think going through a training camp is important. Guys that miss training camp because of contract disputes often take 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks before they really get into gear. And so for Jamie to be here day one and be a lot closer to being 100% healthy, I think is fantastic.
System-wise too, right? I mean, it's a whole different system that you guys are doing than you had in Anaheim.
Yeah, different concepts and structures and everything that goes with it. And we probably say a lot of the same things, but with different words, and you have to learn the vocabulary as well that's used in that organization. Yeah.
I was talking to Yegor in the locker room. He also said that he feels more comfortable this year. Last year was maybe his first real Tortorella camp, and now this year he feels more comfortable. Where do you see him at? And do you see more of a comfort level with him?
Yeah, I mean, he's always had poise. He's always been. That's really been his best asset. Is he could be in the midst of a maelstrom and if his pulse wouldn't rise, and he'd make a real poised puck play. He's a big guy with a long reach that can defend a lot of bigger guys because of that reach. I think he's done a great job of showing what he can do away from the puck, and a lot of times that's one of your biggest challenges as a young defenseman is how well do you play away from the puck. I think he's done an exceptional job of learning there and growing there and getting better at it.
Where do you see his game going? Where's the progression for him?
Well, I think he's going to be a part of this core for a while here. I just think he probably impacts the game a little bit more offensively, knowing when to jump in the play a little bit more. I think he's at times is there, and I think there's other times when he could have and sort of misses that opportunity, and then we miss maybe the opportunity to create a little bit better offensive play. But I like where his game's at right now. He's a very useful player right now. He's going to grow in getting more wisdom on the ice. He's going to grow on just like Jamie and just like any other young defenseman. You go through the situations, You learn from them, whether you had success or you didn't have success. You take what's good and you throw out the stuff that's no good, and you move on and you try and be better the next day. And that's really the process we're all in here.
Sam Urson said something I thought particularly interesting after the game a couple nights ago, in that, you know, you guys obviously stress blocking shots, as every coaching staff does, and you're good at it. You got a lot of guys that are good at it. But he said, you know, sometimes it's good if the shot gets through, and maybe he's trying to increase the communication a little bit between the defensemen. Is that, what's the process when the goalie sometimes wants to see more shots and wants the defenseman to maybe let him see more shots? How do you handle that?
Well, I think goalies say they like to face shots when they're from distance and when they're uncontested net front. When that's the case, you know, their degree of saving it is really high. I think that we're going to continue to block shots as long as we feel like that's the best way to deny pucks to get to the net and then deny the quality of the chance. It's a big part of our penalty kill. I know goalies, I've heard goalies say that, oh, it's good, he had lots of shots. It's when they have lots of shots and lots of goals go in, they don't like having lots of shots. So we're gonna continue down the path of denying pucks to the net and trying not to have him have lots of shots. It's great. I thought he was fantastic. I thought we played pretty loose in front of him. I thought lots of drop passes, lots of behind the back stuff, lots of, stuff that, it's great. But when the puck drops game one, when the games really count, you probably won't see quite so much of that from us.
This is Bobby Brink's third preseason game. You tried him out in a lot of different lineups. Just how much does that speak to your guys' confidence in him and, the strides that he's made, during this summer and in preseason?
He's a guy, he was maybe not in the crosshairs of Torts, but, he really wanted him to work on his defensive game and be more responsible. And I think since Bobby's gotten here, he's always shown he has the ability to see the ice, make plays, get on the inside, even against bigger guys. He's a real competitive guy. I think what he's done is he's shown enough on the effort side and the preparation side through the off season that we treat him like it's the wrong term, a regular guy, but he's a part of the team. He's not a guy that's looking to find his way. We're looking for production from him. We're looking for day-to-day production from him because we've seen it and we know what he can do. So that's the exciting part of him. There's been a lot of different line combinations in the exhibition games and in the scrimmages and practice. So once the dust settles and we see what those lines shake out at, I think he's going to have a real important role for us.
Jet Luchenko, last game, I think he was out there for almost all 2 minutes of a PK. Do you see some real potential and upside there of him as a PK, or maybe almost similar to what Travis Konecny does for you guys?
Well, there's upside in almost every element of his game. So he's an exciting guy at his age for what he's done here the last couple of weeks, and he's opened a lot of people's eyes, and he's proven that he's going to be a formidable player at both ends of the rink for as long as he plays. So he's going to be a great penalty killer because he can skate. His instincts are off the charts. He's only going to get stronger. He's only going to get smarter. That combination, that's a pretty enticing thing to think of, 2-3 years down the road.
Going back to Zamula for a second, he's one of the guys maybe struggled with consistency last year. How do you, and maybe not just for him but in general, like how, as the coach for the defense, how do you work on that? Is it just reassurances? Is it conversations? What's kind of your role in helping guys develop more consistency?
I would say trying to identify why they're not consistent. I think for him, he stops moving his feet. I think he stops seeing the ice a little bit as well as when he's really on. And those two things are pretty consistent through most defensemen. If you're ready to skate on loose pucks and you have your eyes up so your decision-making is situationally correct, you're usually making good plays, and we're usually on the attack a lot less than we're defending. And that's the balance that we're trying to create. We're trying to not have to defend quite so much, and he's one of those puck movers that can hold on to it that split second longer than most guys are willing to do, and that's what separates him from the other guys. That's what makes him a little bit harder to check at times, because guys will come, and then when the defenseman will normally move it, well, he's not moving it while I'm swinging off now, and all of a sudden now the play he makes traps that guy, and we've created an advantage, and that's really the whole point of why we're moving the puck. So, yeah, he's got a skill set that helps us not spend so much time in our zone, and that's exactly what we're looking for from our defense.
Torts has talked a lot about how good the room is, and a few of the guys said that you don't typically see this little change of the roster from one year to the next. How much, as a coaching staff, does the familiarity and maybe the expectation of what camp is allow you guys to hit the ground running more?
Well, I think it's huge. Torts has talked about the third year, and but for the most part, we've got a lot of guys it's their third year here with with this coaching staff, and we go through the video, and I'm hoping for most guys it's just a refresher and they're not really having to dive in. But when you go 5 months without playing a hockey game, you tend to forget and get confused on maybe some of the systems you played with in other organizations or at other levels. So, I think it's a huge leg up. I think the level of success that this core group had last year, certainly through the first 65, 70 games, also gives us a leg up confidence-wise. We kind of have a blueprint for how it's done. It requires a lot of work. It requires a lot of sacrifice and commitment, but we got a lot of guys that's where they hang their hat. That's the type of hockey they like to play, and I think the fit really helps us, and it shows on the ice and how consistently we can play.